This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. The Aztecs take on Michigan in Las Vegas. Our pregame coverage begins at 6:30. John will have the tip after 7:30. San Diego FC has a win or stay home game tonight against the Minnesota United at Snapdragon Stadium. You can hear coverage on our sister station, Jammin' 95.7 at 6:30. In NFL news, the Browns say they will stick with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback next week when they take on the 49ers. And speaking of the 49ers, they are on Monday Night Football tonight, taking on the Panthers. That starts at 5:15. Macy's Backstage is a whole department inside your Macy's store where you can find so many holiday essentials, all for under $25. With new arrivals every day, you never know what amazing deals you'll find. Don't wait. Find a location at Macy'sBackstage.com.
It's John and Jim.
Let's face it, in your particular field, you're the top minds.
Your favorite pair.
Interesting job you guys had.
Very smart and very modern.
They are John and Jim.
That's all you need to know about me.
The Aztecs magic season continues.
Handoff Washington, and he is near the goal line, and he is in for the touchdown. They're going to finish the regular season perfect at home.
We get into what the game means and what's on the line Friday night. Plus, a wild NFL Sunday.
Down the left sideline for Winston, who makes the catch at the 15. Jameis reaching, fighting it is in for the touchdown.
While Brian Dutcher and the fellas take on number 7 Michigan at the Players Era Festival. We'll talk about it all with John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour one of John and Jim. And it's going to be a unique show because I'm in Las Vegas. Jim is off for the entire week, and Jonathan Rifkin's going to be in later this afternoon on John and Jim from 4 to 6 because, well, I can't be in two places at once. So we've got San Diego State basketball coming up from Vegas. I'm looking at my hotel room right now, see the Vegas Strip and the Sphere, and it's a gorgeous day. And I think all Aztec fans are excited for what's to come this week, especially off what happened last week. Obviously, that loss to Troy on Tuesday night, that bitter taste. See if San Diego State can kind of make amends for that coming up this week in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's obviously a huge sports night in general. You just heard Brent talk about it, where you've got San Diego State and Michigan, which, again, is such a marquee profile game when you think about it. I mean, the Aztecs, all the preseason expectations. The Michigan Wolverines are 7th in the AP poll. There was actually a new AP poll today, so I don't even know if they moved from 7th. But, here's this, top 10 team with Final Four aspirations. Then you have, like, the additional storylines of Brian Dutcher, who coached for Steve Fisher. They won a national championship at Michigan back in 1989. They later coached in a couple of national championship games in the early 1990s. So there's all these, like, storylines. And Dusty May, who's the head coach at Michigan, who was the head coach at FAU. Like, I'm just getting started. And there's a million storylines. And then, as Brent told you, also tonight, this winner-go-home game, SDFC Minnesota United, you can hear on Jammin' 95.7, which has massive implications, obviously. I mean, for SDFC, you're talking about extending your season, your first ever season, to potentially the Western Conference Finals. So much on the line tonight. I'll be in Vegas. You'll hear me on San Diego Sports 760 coming up at 7:30 with pregame coverage at 6:30. And again, I'll be here for about 2 hours. It's a little bit of an interesting situation where you're preparing for a game and you're preparing for a show, and I'm at one hotel and I got to get to another point. And there's a lot of moving parts is the point. So we've got you covered for the next 4 hours, 2 hours of which I'll be with you, 2 hours of which Jay Riff, Jonathan Rifkin will be with you. Mark Ziegler is en route to Las Vegas, I think, driving. He's going to pull over around 2:15 and join us in about 10 minutes. Brian Bush is the radio play-by-play voice of the Michigan Wolverines, and he'll join us coming up at 3:30 this afternoon. You've got me, you've got Brent back in the studio, and again, we'll be with you for the next couple of hours. I wanted to start here because there's so much time for San Diego State. We'll talk some SDFC coming up. There was, can I call this a refreshing story out of Major League Baseball? And I do want to get Brent's thoughts on it coming up. But how often do you hear this? There is an international superstar that does not want to play for the Dodgers. You heard me right. There's an international superstar, Amai Tutsaya, or it's actually a Tutsaya Amai, I believe. It's shown both ways if you follow Major League Baseball. But starting pitcher, terrific young pitcher. I think he's about to be 27 years of age. He's going to be posted this winter. He's actually already been posted. He has to sign with the club at some point in the next 6 weeks or so. This is a direct quote from Tatsuya Imai, who we've talked about a little bit on John and Jim. This is not me saying he's coming to San Diego. That's a whole other conversation. But this is me saying, isn't it refreshing that the rich don't always get richer, and that because these past off seasons we've seen the Yamamotos and the Otanis and whomever else and the Suzakis end up with the Dodgers, it doesn't mean it's going to be like that for forever. Here's the quote from Amai. I want to take them down. Playing together with players like Otani, Yamamoto, Suzaki, and others, of course, sounds fun, but I think beating a team like that and becoming world champions would be the most valuable thing in my life. Now, he went on to say as well in this conversation that he prefers not to play with another Japanese-born player, which was way more commonplace. Like, if you've been following Major League Baseball for 30 years, and you saw some of the players that came over initially, that was way more commonplace, like the late 1990s, early 2000s. You wouldn't often see multiple Japanese players on the same Major League team. I think it was seen as a sign of respect to not play with other Japanese players. Obviously, we've seen that change over the last handful of years. You see multiple clubs with multiple Japanese-born players. So he prefers, though, not to play with a Japanese player. Well, Padres obviously have a Japanese player, although he will be out in Yu Darvish. But what do you think about that, Brent? I mean, just the idea that here is a player that is going to be coveted. He's going to have offers. He's already had a brilliant career in the Nippon Professional Baseball League, the NPB. And here he is saying, I don't want to join the LA Dodgers. I want to win, but I want to do it by going through them. That would be more rewarding than joining them. What do you make of that?
It's bound to happen sooner or later. You know, they're not all going to, be like, oh, I got to play for the Dodgers. We all, to where eventually the Dodgers just become, the Team Japan, World Baseball Classic team. So I think it's kind of refreshing. And also, I think from a money standpoint, he doesn't want to share sponsorships. If he goes and say he plays for the Dodgers, he's going to have to fight for, all those Japanese sponsorships with all the other players on the team, where say if he went to, he won't go to like Cincinnati or someone, he'll go to somewhere like at least decent. Say he went to Seattle or something, he would, be the only Japanese player there. So he would have the market, and he would be, the face of the Mariners as far as like the Japanese market went, besides Ichiro, of course. But, he would be the face opposed to just another guy if he played for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, here's the deal. Because obviously we always look at it through the prism of the Padres, and we spend like 90% of our time talking about the Padres. I'm not here to tell you whether the Padres are going to make a run at any player that's being posted this offseason, because I don't know the Padres' financials. I really have no idea what their visions are for the offseason. You've got ownership potentially in flux. You've got a team exploring a sale. You've got a $200 million payroll. And I have no clue what Tatsuya Imai is even going to make. I mean, I see what he made last year in Japan, which wasn't a big number, but he's being posted, and you're going to get, wide variance in terms of what he could ultimately earn. I have no idea what it's ultimately going to be. Is it, $50 million? Is it $150 million? Is it 100? Is it 200? I don't know. So it's not for me to say whether the Padres will be pursuing this player or not. I feel like that's going to present itself in the days and weeks ahead. That's probably a conversation for the winter meetings and beyond. He doesn't have to sign till early January. So I think any reporting on where he may land is probably premature. So again, I'm not selling the false hope of like, he doesn't want to go to the Dodgers. He's coming to the Padres. Let's run this thing back, and the Padres are going to be better suited in 2026 as a result. I mean, that's a completely different conversation. And obviously there's a lot of paths for a player like Imai to potentially take, where you could ultimately be on a playoff contending team and get to the postseason and then potentially win a World Series, right? So, that's a whole other conversation. But the idea that you may get a player that is not going to want to choose the LA Dodgers, especially after the last couple of off seasons. I mean, look at the way it's played out. I mean, it was such a song and dance. This idea that Roki Sazaki's pursuit was completely wide open, and he didn't have, he didn't have any plans in advance of the posting. It was all BS is what it was. I mean, give me a break. He always knew he was going to end up with the Dodgers. The whole thing with the Padres, and they entertained him, and they, wined and dined him, and he did sushi at Machado's house, and he was throwing bullpens at Petco Park. I mean, that was a charade is ultimately what it was. My point here is I think it's going to be less of a charade. And whether that means the New York Yankees or the San Francisco Giants or the San Diego Padres, where he lands, by the way, I mean, just look at the track record of other pitchers of his, caliber that have come over in recent history, and look at how they've performed at the major league level. I mean, there are so many examples at this point of young or, kind of young but entering the prime of their career players that come over and they make immediate impacts. I mean, there's so many examples of this. Here's a guy that in 2025 had a 1.9 ERA and threw 163 and 2/3 innings. So whoever lands him is getting a quality piece in the rotation. Oh, by the way, the Padres need a quality piece in their rotation. So that'll be on the Padres what they're going to spend. Are they going to make a real run at any free agent this offseason? Are they going to open up the checkbook? Are they going to spend, 20 plus million on a player per year? Are they going to spend 75 million or more on any player in terms of the overall contract? That's a conversation probably for the winter meetings or another day, but it is somewhat refreshing again to hear that Amai may have an interest in joining a team other than the LA Dodgers. All right, we'll get back to it. Mark Ziegler en route to Las Vegas, where San Diego State's playing Michigan. Coming up later on tonight at 7:30, a game you'll hear right here on San Diego Sports 760. Massive game with implications. We'll preview on the other side. Mark Ziegler from the UT. This is John and Jim just underway. San Diego Sports 760. Stay with us. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, kind of a special edition. Jim is off for the week. I am in Las Vegas from my hotel room. Jonathan Rifkin will have the final 2 hours of the show, because San Diego State and Michigan meet tonight in game one of the Players Era Festival for the Aztecs, 7:30, with pregame coverage beginning at 6:30 p.m. Mark Ziegler, who does such a good job covering the Aztecs basketball program, is en route and joining us right now on John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Mark, appreciate you taking time for us and pulling over for a few minutes. Let's start here before we get to Vegas. Before we turn the page from the Troy game, what's the impact of Tuesday's loss to Troy, in your opinion, for San Diego State moving forward?
Well, it's not good, but it's not quite as bad on Thursday as it was on Tuesday, because they went up to USC and played into a triple overtime game. And even though Troy lost that game, I think just in the minds of a lot of people, it kind of legitimized Troy in a sense, and showed that they're really actually a pretty good team. And I also think one of the key points of it all too is, okay, it's going to be a quad 3 loss on their resume, which is not good at all. It's going to say Troy, and I think the people in the selection committee will say, oh, yeah, that's that team that took, USC to triple overtime 2 nights later. That was crazy. Yeah, they're pretty good. And so maybe there'll be a little bit more leniency for that than there otherwise would be. So I think in that respect, it's not quite as bad. But look, slice it and dice it any way you want. It's still a bad loss.
Mark Ziegler joining us right now. Again, San Diego State and Michigan coming up tonight at 7:30. So, Mark, you've watched Michigan. You've prepared for this game like I have. Their sheer size is a problem for most teams in the country. That includes San Diego State, and the Aztecs have size. How much of a challenge is it when you see guys like Mara, who was at UCLA, obviously Axel Lendenborg we've seen before. There are others, Johnson, the 6'9" sophomore. There's just so much size. Can that be overcome?
Yeah, I mean, the one good thing is San Diego State does have some size. They have a lot of bigs and a lot of fouls to give in there, and it's athletic size. A guy like Farrell Compton should have a pretty good game. This is right in his wheelhouse. It's going to be physical. The refs will probably let a little bit more go than usual. Miles Heide has some size. Of course, they now have Magoon Guaf, who's a 7'4" man. They can put Thakbor out there if they need some more length. Jeremiah Odin is, 6'8", 6'9". So they don't have as much size, but they're not really that far off. So I think it actually is a better matchup for them than Troy was. I know that sounds weird, but in terms of size and physicality, I'm not talking talent, but just in terms of the size thing and the style of play, I think they're better suited for it.
It's kind of interesting, like styles make fights, and it'll be interesting to see how San Diego State deals with this Michigan team here tonight. How do you think the Aztecs come out? You've been at practice since Tuesday. What do you think the response to what transpired at Viejas Arena?
I mean, I think they're going to be focused, but I think they would have been whether they'd won that game or not. I mean, this is a chance for them to play a top 10 opponent. They've been looking forward to it since it was announced July 1st that they were going to play Michigan. I don't think there's any reason for them not to be motivated. They're in a city that they've always played well in. They've always done well in these MTEs. So I think there's a comfort factor. They're in their time zone. Michigan's going to be outside their time zone. Michigan probably is going to look past them a little bit, just human nature, because they play Auburn second, and Auburn's the team that knocked them out of the NCAA tournament last year in the Sweet 16. It's a loss that was really kind of bitter for them, and they've been thinking about all summer as a coaching staff, and for all those players who returned, about half the roster. So there's a lot of reasons why I think San Diego State will come out well. For me, I don't think the question is going to be, does San Diego State play well? I think they will. The question for me is, how well does Michigan play? I mean, if Michigan plays at the height of its powers, there aren't very many teams, if any, in the country that can beat them. They are that talented. But they haven't played that way so far this year. They've had some questionable wins. They've a couple games that came down to the wire. They've turned the ball over too much. They haven't shot it well from three. And so there's a lot of question marks around them at this time of the year. I think in February and March, they're going to be a different beast. But right now, they might be gettable.
I love a good storyline. Mark Ziegler is with us. And there's so many here, just like the overarching Brian Dutcher's career at Michigan. Dusty May, Brian Dutcher, Final Four 2023. Just the second all-time meeting between the Aztecs and the Wolverines. Is that at all? I mean, do you find that interesting? Like I do. You know, Brian Dutcher spent so much time at Michigan. It obviously didn't end the way that anyone thought it would with Coach Fisher and Coach Dutcher. And here we are kind of 25 or 30 years later, and some of it remains a little bit of a talking point, doesn't it?
I think it does. I think it was a bigger deal when they went back to Ann Arbor because Brian Dutcher had not physically been inside the Chrysler Center since he left in 1998. And so I think that was a big deal. And playing, against a team coached by a player he recruited, Juwan Howard. So I think I don't want to say there was complete closure, but I think it gave a sort of a sense of closure a little bit. And it's fun just listening to talk about it the other day. Yes, it's still it has meaning to him, but it's just sort of memories now. It's not the same kind of bitterness. And I think a lot of that was sort of flushed when they went in 2021. I think the really interesting storyline here is Magoon Guath, because remember, he went in the transfer portal, and Michigan was one of the two teams he talked to, Michigan and Kentucky. And he talked to him, more than once, he told me, and considered going there and considered being on that team and decided, no, my heart was at San Diego State and stayed. I'm really interested to see how he plays and what he feels like he wants to prove to them and maybe them to him a little bit too. So I think that's another of those storylines you talk about that just really makes this game pretty intriguing.
That is fascinating. I want to get your thoughts. Forget the result against Troy for a moment, because again, we've discussed it. But the way Magoon played in the game, and it wasn't perfect, but for him to not play for however long that was, from the North Carolina game until coming off the knee surgery, and to step into that arena, so to speak, and perform like that, that was pretty remarkable. His performance the other night, wasn't it?
Yeah, I look at it. There's two ways to look at it. And the one is exactly what you said. It's incredible. I mean, it's 7 months after surgery, 10 days after being cleared for his knee, for full contact, having not played in the game, just practicing a little bit and coming out and be able to have that kind of impact. It really bodes well the rest of the season. If he can do that, he did it in 28 minutes, but really the last 8, he was exhausted. In 20 minutes, he basically had 20.7 rebounds and 3 blocks. And that's pretty impressive. You imagine what's he going to be able to do in 30 when he's fit. And but the flip side of that is, and as a basketball player, it's just this weird dynamic. We joke about all the time. I play in this men's league and play with some guys who've been playing for years. We're older now, so that means we get hurt. And there'll be guys who have a month-long layoff or 2-month layoff. The first time you come back, you cannot miss. And it just happened to me. I had a layoff, came back, I was fine. And then the next time you play, there's kind of some issues. And a lot of it, I think, is mental, because when you come back the first time, you have no expectation. In fact, your expectation is, I'm going to suck and I'm going to struggle, and it's going to be a game rhythm thing. And you just go out there and play loose and free. Don't try to do too much. And anything that happens is good, and it builds your confidence. And so now there's a level of expectation, I think, in the back of his mind that, I need to have 20 and 10 and 3 blocks every night. And so that's the next battle he's going to have to face. So I could see it going both ways. I could see him building off that, but I also could see that weird basketball thing where the next 2 or 3 games, he kind of struggles a little bit and then he really picks it up. So I have no idea what it's going to be, but it could be either of those. And so I don't think we should be surprised one way or the other how he plays tonight.
Mark, final one before you go, because I know you're en route, is what would you consider, maybe what would San Diego State consider a successful week here in Las Vegas?
I think you'd like to get out of here with 2 wins. That's what they did last year. They beat Creighton and Houston, and that set them up for the rest of the season. It just takes the pressure off of everything else. You can kind of play a little bit more relaxed, and I think they probably played a little bit too relaxed sometimes against lesser opponents last year and got them in trouble and barely made the tournament, but they still made the tournament because they blew out Creighton and they beat Houston. Getting 2 wins would be great. I think they have a great chance against Oregon. I don't think Oregon is as good as last year, and I think they were significantly better than Oregon last year in all facets of the game except for on the boards. That's the game that really stuck in their craw. Of all the games they played last year, I think that's the one that the players wanted back the most. And when they got a chance to play them again in this tournament, they were excited, and I think they'll be, no matter what happens tonight, they'll be fired up for that game. So if you can get one of these first 2 and you go into game day 3 with 1 win, 3 games in 3 days really plays in the hands of a deep team, and that's what they have. And a team that knows how to scout on short rest, a coaching staff that knows how to sort of distill a game plan down into 5 or 6 key points. and get that across to the team. And so I think they have a lot of advantages on that third day, no matter who they play. And you saw it last year. It wasn't 3 in 3 days, but you saw the third game against Houston. Houston looked a little bit worn out. The Aztecs were fresh, partly because they flew home, which they can't do here. But I think there's a good chance if you get out of here two wins, no matter who they're against, you set yourself up for the rest of the season, taking the pressure off. The disaster, of course, is going 0-3. And 1 and 2, you're still sort of okay. You got a shot at Arizona later. You're still in the mix for an at-large berth.
Yeah, I think that's well said. How far out are you? You're en route, right?
About halfway, so I should be there about 5. I'm hoping.
Sounds good. Safe travels, Mark. Appreciate you stopping for a few minutes to talk to us about the game, and we'll see you tonight, all right?
Yep, see you at the arena. Bye.
All right, great stuff from Mark Ziegler from the UT. We'll switch gears to San Diego State football and SDFC coming up. John and Jim with you until 6 p.m. I'm here in my hotel room until 4. Jonathan Rifkin will take over from 4 to 6. Jim has the week off. On the other side, we'll hear from Sean Lewis. Plus, coming up at 3:30, Brian Bush. He is the Michigan radio play-by-play voice for men's basketball. He'll join us coming up at 3:30. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app.
The support is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. The Aztecs take on Michigan out in Las Vegas tonight. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 6:30. John will have the tip around 7:30. San Diego FC has a winner stay home game tonight at Snapdragon Stadium when they take on the Minnesota United. You can hear coverage on our sister station Jammin' 95.7 at 6:30. In NFL news, the Browns say they will stick with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback next week when they take on the 49ers. And speaking of the 49ers, they take on the Panthers tonight on Monday Night Football. That kickoff is set for 5:15. Macy's Backstage is a whole department inside your Macy's store where you can find so many holiday essentials, all for under $25 with new arrivals every day. You never know what amazing deals you'll find. Don't wait. Find a location at macysbackstage.com.
All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 until 6 p.m. I'm here in Vegas in my hotel, San Diego State and Michigan coming up tonight at 7:30. So I'll be on the air until 4. J-Riff will take you home from 4 to 6. And we've got Aztecs basketball coming up tonight at 7:30. Pregame coverage at 6:30. We have SDFC in the Western Conference semifinals coming up as well tonight, 7 p.m. You can hear that. Match on Jammin' 95.7. We'll hear from Sean Lewis coming up. San Diego State football, by the way. 9-2, perfect home regular season. I mean, just incredible. From where they were a year ago, who would have raised their arm to say, yeah, I think that's possible. Yeah, I think they could be 9-2. I could see them going from 3-9 to controlling their own destiny into the final game of the regular season. Like, I don't recall that conversation being very loud at any point this offseason. I remember, talking about it on the radio in the, the spring and summer months and saying, hey, listen, they've got a lot of pieces back. Like, San Diego State's got a chance to be good. They've got a lot of pieces back on their defense. They're adding in a quarterback from Michigan. Like, this is a team that's capable of reaching a bowl game. And not everyone went along with that narrative. There were a lot of people that thought that it wasn't going to turn around that quickly, and they were a work in progress. There was still a lot of time between, where they were at 3-9 to get to, 6-7 wins. Well, you fast forward and they're 9-2. And there's still work to be done. I don't know the tie-breaking scenarios for the Mountain West Championship game because they're so confusing. The best way to avoid the tie-breaking scenarios is just to win. Because if San Diego State beats New Mexico in Albuquerque Friday afternoon, a game you can hear right here on San Diego Sports 760, 12:30 Pacific, is going to be the kick time. If the Aztecs win that game, they're hosting the Mountain West title game the next Friday. That's as simple as you can put it. So put matters in your own hands, win the game, take care of business, whatever the cliche is, and host the Mountain West Championship game. Now, the caveat in that is New Mexico. This is like New Mexico's Super Bowl is how I look at it. New Mexico hasn't had an 8-win team in forever. They've got a first-year head coach. They've had this remarkable turnaround over the last year or two. They never have a season like the season that they're having right now. Like, never. It is so rare in New Mexico football history for them to win 8 or 9 games. Now, they don't control their own destiny. Like, they could beat San Diego State this weekend and still be on the outside looking in for a Mountain West title game, or maybe they'd be in it. I don't know how it's all going to shake out. But regardless, New Mexico is going to have this huge crowd. It's almost like the Super Bowl for the state of New Mexico is how I'm looking at it, because they don't have a lot of opportunities like this historically in the sport of football. So it's a challenge. It's a test. Aztecs are a very small favorite, somewhere between 1 and 3 points. They're going to have to play well. And they have, by and large, played well. Their only losses this year are on the road. But if they win the game, they're in the Mountain West title game. If they lose the game, then that's where things get interesting. And it comes down to tiebreakers and computers and scenarios. In one world, you could lose and host the championship game. In another world, you could be out of the championship game. And then the in-between is you could be in the championship game, but potentially on the road. And there's still a possibility where San Diego State and Boise meet again. Remember, they just met a week and a half ago here in San Diego in the rain. And it looked for a moment like Boise would be on the outside looking in, but Boise wins this past weekend. They're playing Utah State this upcoming weekend, and we could see San Diego State and Boise. We could see San Diego State and UNLV. We could see New Mexico and San Diego State, and so on and so forth. But let's hear from Sean Lewis and then react to this. So Sean Lewis postgame on the work that's been done to this point, kind of looking back, but also looking ahead. All right, our computer froze. So we'll hear from Sean Lewis in a second on what he said post-game after the Aztecs. I mean, the Aztecs kind of dismantled San Jose State. San Jose State scored 3 points. This was a team that had the fourth best passing offense in the country. They played 3 quarterbacks. There was an injury to their starter. Then the second quarterback had cramping. They moved the ball, but they weren't able to score, essentially. And San Diego State just kind of wore on the Spartans. An odd game. It looked like the Aztecs would have chances to score more than 25 points in the game. They had a dropped 50-yard touchdown pass in there as well, but they ended up winning convincingly and winning going away 25-3. The amazing story there is that the Aztecs this year have allowed fewer than 7 points per game at home. The entire year, they've allowed fewer than 7 points per game at home. And they're like top 3 in total defense this year in terms of points allowed. All right, here with Sean Lewis on looking back and looking ahead.
All the work that we've done is great. And the reward for all the work that we've done is more work. And like that, but that's life, right? Like you do a really good job in the entry level job. Like congratulations, you get the promotion, you get more work. Then you do a really good job in that job. Like congratulations, now you manage more. Like, and so I hope, if nothing else, these guys learn to appreciate that the work is the reward, right? Like we got to continue to do this work at a really high level. And no matter what we're feeling or what we're thinking, right, there's work that needs to be done to our standard and get it done in that space, right? And again, there'll be a time and there'll be a place and there'll be a space that we'll be able to, relax for a moment, right, and really reflect upon what we've done. But this is a special crew. And again, you look at all the work that's happened from a year ago, to this point, and the way that guys have, reaffirmed their commitment to what we were doing, the way that they stayed in the building, how that led to us being able to acquire the talent that we needed in certain holes and certain gaps that we felt that we filled, the development of players that were already in the building to step into the roles that we needed them to fill, the way the staff has continued to grow and connect together. It's led to some really beautiful complimentary football that led to a great evening tonight to be at 9-2, and all that's well and good. And I can keep waning poetically about it, but it doesn't matter. We got to get better. And there's another opportunity, another opponent that's waiting for us in, a short order here.
He's done an amazing job. Talking about Sean Lewis, San Diego State's second-year head coach. I mean, it's kind of incredible when you consider where they were in the second half last year. I mean, they lost 6 consecutive games to finish last year. They did not play well. I think Sean kind of spoke directly to that this offseason, even to start the year, saying like it wasn't the standard. It wasn't acceptable. I think at one point even called it embarrassing the way they played down the stretch. And they have completely flipped this thing on its head, and they've done it in the conventional Aztec way, with defense and special teams, because their defense and special teams have been terrific and carried the day. They've overcome injuries. They've had injuries on the offensive side of the ball, including a quarterback. They've lost a couple of really talented wide receivers, but the same, results keep coming. They keep winning at this very high level. Chance to take care of business, clinch a home game for the Mountain West title game coming up a week from Friday if they beat New Mexico in Albuquerque on Friday afternoon. And again, there are still scenarios where San Diego State is hosting or in the Mountain West title game if they don't win in Albuquerque on Friday, but just take care of business. Find your way to win. Again, I don't think it's going to be an easy game, but a great opportunity for San Diego State coming up Friday afternoon at 12:30 Pacific. All right, Brian Bush is going to join us coming up at 3:30. We're in Las Vegas. He is the play-by-play voice of Michigan men's basketball. He will join us coming up at 3:30. In addition, I don't even remember if we touched on it or not. I think we briefly touched on what Michael Kay said during his radio show in New York in last Friday. He talked about the possibility of the Padres trading Fernando Tatis Jr. I have more thoughts on that, and I'm going to share those with you coming up at 3 p.m. So, again, Fernando Tatis Jr., is there really a scenario where the Padres could trade him this offseason when you consider everything that is playing out right now? Is that a possibility? We'll get to Is That Good, the best and worst of the sports weekend on the other side. Brian Bush will join us at 3:30, but again at 3 p.m. Is there a scenario where the Padres move Fernando Tatis Jr. this offseason? Is that a possibility or not? We will discuss here until 6 p.m., getting you ready for San Diego State and Michigan, getting ready for SDFC and Minnesota in the Western Conference postseason as well. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 from Las Vegas, Nevada. Jim is off. I'm getting ready for San Diego State basketball coming up later on tonight, 7:30, the Aztecs and the Michigan Wolverines. We'll catch up with more on that game. We'll preview it with Brian Bush, who is the Michigan radio play-by-play voice. He'll join us coming up at 3:30. Some thoughts on what Michael Kay had to say on his radio show on Friday in New York City about the possibility of the Padres trading Fernando Tatis Jr. We'll get to that as well. And again, we're here until 4 p.m. He's coming up at 4 p.m. Jonathan Rifkin, J-Riff. He'll be back. I think he's in San Diego, right? I think he's in studio. Coming up, he's in right now. So he's going to be in at 4 p.m. right here for me and Jim coming up on San Diego Sports 760. Does he want to chime in? Is he like literally sitting down in the studio?
He is. He's putting his headphones on right now.
Okay, he's putting headphones. I'm putting him on the spot. We have not
John
talked.
Schaefer.
I was going to say, we haven't talked on air or off air in forever. You texted me. I don't even remember when it was, and I meant to get back to you. It was right. It was a couple of weeks ago, and you're like, "We need to catch up." I'm like, "Yeah, I agree," and we haven't caught up.
Well,
since.
I didn't know that you agreed. All I got was a heart, which is fine.
Oh, it was a heart emoji.
Which, by the way, look,
emoji.
Getting a heart from anybody is never a bad thing. But I did. It's been a while. I've been thinking a lot about you. I've been listening to you basically every week. Admittedly, more of your play-by-play than of your radio show, but I do tune in. I do tune in from time to time. Your voice is very it's very meaningful to me. It gives me energy, and so I felt the need to text you, and then I got a heart in response.
Well, okay. Well, we do need to catch up off air, but since I have you on air, what do you have in store for us coming up at 4 p.m.? As I'm heading over to the Mandalay Bay, which is a little bit of a production because I'm staying elsewhere, and you pack up the equipment, head over to Mandalay Bay. You know how it is,
of course,
as a play-by-play guy. So I'll be heading over to the Mandalay Bay at 4 p.m. What do you have in store for us from 4 to 6 today?
Well, we have two great guests. We're going to have Will Brinson coming on for his weekly chat, Monday Night Football preview. He had some very interesting picks for this upcoming week's NFL slate, so I'm gonna press him about that. Ooh. And then coming up in hour number 2, my buddy Drew Ferris. He played football in the NFL. He is a long snapping coach and a football analyst. We're going to have him on. He has some very unique perspectives of where we sit. And then peppered around that, we're going to talk about, of course, SDFC's match tonight. Mark Ziegler had some great points that I kind of want to reiterate after 4 o'clock. And we'll talk about San Diego State playing tonight against Michigan. And of course, I think the interesting story that most people are missing is that the College Football Playoff Committee, John, has decided that they're going to wait a little bit longer until we know the playoff format. And I have some thoughts about what the playoff format may or may not be could affect future Pac-12 schools.
Ooh, I like this. All right, so that's coming up at 4 p.m. I haven't touched a ton as of yet on SDFC. Obviously, win or go home Monday night, Snapdragon Stadium, sellout crowd. Jammin' 95.7 will have it for you 7 p.m. with pregame coverage at 6:30. I guess it's kind of like finger crossed time of year, right? Because it's win or go home, but the winner advances to the Western Conference Finals in this like pinch me season so far. Yeah. For SDFC.
Where do you think, John, in the array of San Diego sports moments, where does tonight rank?
You're just saying in general or specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it's a West. You are a brand new soccer team. I mean, we're in the era of expansion teams, right? The Valkyrie making the playoffs in the WNBA. We saw the Golden Knights win the NHL championship. We've seen the Kraken make the NHL postseason. Like, we are in the era of sports expansion team, not dominance necessarily, but relevance. San Diego FC has been dominant. But like to be where they are hosting this semifinal, like you said, Monday night, this amazing stadium in front of what has been an incredible crowd all season long. It's got to be up there as on a pedestal of some of the greatest already in San Diego, right? Just by the implications alone.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I mean, it's tremendously impactful. I think ultimately, if they end up playing for an MLS Cup, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but if they end up playing for an MLS Cup, you're in like a storybook type of situation, right? Like something that somebody would write, and it doesn't even seem believable. Like, hey, here's this expansion franchise that was picked to finish 15th in the Western Conference at like MLS.com that has put together like the most ridiculous first season in the history of professional soccer in America. So even right now, you could make the claim that this is ridiculous in terms of their success and accomplishments. So, and to think that they're only 2 matches potentially away from being in an MLS Cup. But then we got this other thing that played out over the weekend that we haven't even touched on, which is the top seed in the East was Philadelphia. They went down. The reason that means something is there is still a path for SDFC not just to make an MLS Cup, but potentially host it. They would need NYCFC, the 5 seed, to be the winner of the East. And if that happens, then the MLS Cup would be in San Diego. So not a guarantee because they have to play Miami. And if they lose to Miami, then Miami would host it.
Miami's pretty good, right?
They just won 4-0.
Right, and they had that guy, Lionel Messi.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's pretty solid.
And SDFC needs to win 2 matches over the next 6 days. So there's work to be done. But yeah, I'm 100% with you. Like it's been a ridiculous season, and hopefully that continues tonight. And there's something about I forget who we recently had on, and it could have been Darren, but it may have been another one of our guests. It was like, the thing with soccer is you can dominate a match and lose a match.
I say it every broadcast. I mean, you've called the sport.
It's not basketball.
It's the only sport where you can win every micro and still lose the game. Right. Like there's no other sport where that happens. If you are plus on the court in basketball, you're going to win. You could be plus on the field in soccer and still lose.
Yeah, it's crazy. Exactly. So that's the concern. And then, of course, you could end up in a penalty kick situation like they did in Game 2 against Portland and end up on the wrong side of something like that. But they've been so good. I mean, they've just been so good, and hopefully they continue to play the way they've played. And I mean, they've blown some teams out here, right? They take 2-3 goal leads. So hopefully that happens here tonight. But it's hard to predict what's going to happen here tonight. We just know it's a big match, obviously, coming up.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So appreciate you, again, hanging out because you're going to be with us, tomorrow afternoon as well. So today from 4 to 6, tomorrow afternoon from 4 to 6, then we'll kind of figure out Wednesday.
Yes, sir. I'm battening down the hatches, and I am ready as soon as my phone rings. And you say, Johnny, I need you there. I'm there, John. I'm here. I'm ready to go.
Appreciate that. So, what else? What else? How are things?
Things are good, man. A lot of seeds planted. You know how they say like it's not like necessarily it rains, it pours, but I would just say my life is very overstimulating right now.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but it has really messed with my sleep because my brain, the dopamine seeker that it is now expecting like, oh, is something going to happen tomorrow? And so then when I try to sleep, it doesn't want to sleep. And it is a fight to the finish every night. But you know what? I am grateful that I'm in this position. And so I don't take it for granted. And I will happily be sleepless if this is the reason that I'm sleepless. So, yeah, man, I'm just happy to. It's great to hear your voice. Things have been good with you. It's been fun to hear you and Rich all season long.
We're catching up on the radio.
Of course,
it has. All right, I'll let you get back to your prep for 4 p.m. and
a lot of prep to do.
Great catching up, man. All right, Brent. While we have a second, because we still have a couple of minutes here, can we get to Is That Good before we get out?
Is That Good?
Wilcox, snapper, Huber, holder from 29 yards away. Oh, he missed it badly. Kick on the way. Boswell. That's a winner.
The good and bad from the sports weekend.
All right, some thoughts on, again, Fernando Tatis Jr., what Michael Kay had to say about him coming up at 3 p.m. But Is That Good? I'll get us started here with this. San Diego State, I touched on this maybe 15 minutes ago. An amazing home regular season where they go 6-0. They blow out their opponents. They've outscored opponents at home by over 100 points. And they allow just 41 points in 6 home games. That's an average of 6.8 points per game in 6 home games this regular season. Brent, is that good? Yeah, just utter dominance. Whether it was, Cal earlier in the year, a P4 opponent, or, Stony Brook, an FCS opponent, or, Boise State in the rain, or just the other night against San Jose State. It's just been, no matter who they've played, they have played really dominant football at Snapdragon Stadium this year. All right, switching gears to the NFL, J.J. McCarthy's been awful. He completes 12 of 19 passes this week against the Packers. He throws for 87 yards. He's picked off multiple times. He's sacked 5 times. He's having a miserable rookie season after missing all of last year due to injury. Is that good?
No, it's no good. Are you kidding me?
Like, I don't know what the future looks like for J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota, but I don't think it looks very good based on how this has played out in 2025. And then finally, in the NFL, the Chiefs overcome some deficits against the Colts and win in overtime. They keep their playoff hopes alive. They're 6-5 overall, kind of in position to be in position. And depending on how you look at that, is that good?
It is good!
All right, so the Chiefs, Brent, might be on their way back to the postseason in 2025. Wasn't easy yesterday, but 6-5 overall, beat the Colts at home. And again, still not in perfect position, but in better position than they were probably 48 hours ago.
Well, yeah, if they didn't come back and win yesterday, they were essentially screwed. They weren't going to get in at all, which is kind of funny because Tony Romo brought up during the broadcast yesterday about how, every year of Mahomes' career, he's made it to the AFC Championship game. And then, like, with about 20 minutes to go in the game, he was in danger of not even making the playoffs. So I don't know. I think I don't care if they make the playoffs, but I want them to be in contention down the stretch. So at least makes things interesting. I won't want to be eliminated already.
100%. It'll be interesting because of where they are right now. I'm with you. I mean, I don't know if they're going to make the postseason or not, but I look at their schedule remaining. We talked about it last week. I mean, there's certainly a path for them to the postseason. All right, on the other side, we'll kick off hour 2 of John and Jim by talking about what Michael Kay had to say on the radio in New York about the possibility of Fernando Tatis Jr. being traded. Coming up at 3:30, Brian Bush, radio voice of Michigan men's basketball, will join the show. We'll preview tonight's matchup between the Aztecs and the number 7 Wolverines here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Here until 4, then Jonathan Rifkin's got you from 4 to 6, so don't go anywhere. Hour 2, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app is next.
This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. The Aztecs take on Michigan in Las Vegas tonight. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 6:30. John will have the tip around 7:30. San Diego FC has a winner stay home game tonight at Snapdragon Stadium when they take on the Minnesota United. You can hear coverage on our sister station Jammin' 95.7 at 6:30. In NFL news, the Browns say they will stick with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback next week when they take on the 49ers. And in other NFL news, Tampa Bay said quarterback Baker Mayfield has confirmed an AC joint sprain in his left shoulder, but showed no additional damage, according to ESPN. But Mayfield's status for Sunday's game against the Cardinals remains uncertain, but they don't think there's going to be any long-term effects. Macy's Backstage is a whole department inside your Macy's store where you can find so many holiday essentials, all for $25 with new arrivals every day. You never know what amazing deals you'll find. Don't wait. Find a location at Macy'sBackstage.com.
It's John and Jim.
Let's face it, in your particular field, you're the top minds.
Your favorite pair.
Interesting job you guys have.
Very smart and very modern.
They are John and Jim.
That's all you need to know about me.
The Aztecs magic season continues.
Handoff Washington, and he is near the goal line, and he is in for the touchdown. They're going to finish the regular season perfect at home.
We get into what the game means and what's on the line Friday night. Plus, a wild NFL Sunday.
Down the left sideline for Winston, who makes the catch at the 15. Jameis reaching, fighting it is in for the touchdown.
While Brian Dutcher and the fellas take on number 7 Michigan at the Players Era Festival. We'll talk about it all with John and Jim.
Hi, San Diego and Southern California. What's going on? This is hour 2 of John and Jim with you until 6 because J-Riff is going to be filling in for me and Jim from 4 to 6. He's in studio getting ready. Jim is off this week. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, because once we hit 4 p.m., I'm going to, Brian, tell me if this is the right analogy. I'm going to like Clark Kent it. Is that when you like change outfits? It's like Superman?
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of. So I'm going to, like, if you're watching me on the live stream right now, I'm wearing a Padres cap and like a Jordan hoodie. Well, the second this thing ends, I mean, I don't even know. I got to pack up the equipment, probably a quick shower, race over to the arena at 4:30. The thing is, what a lot of people don't understand, specifically Jim, arguably Brent, is like there's like it's a whole process. I can't just go from here, and J-Riff gets this, and then be on air at 5 p.m. Like, it's way too risky because you got to get in an Uber, you got to get to the arena, you got to get a credential, you got to find out where you're setting up, you got to make sure you have power. You know what I mean? There's all these factors. So anyway, I'm going to race out of here. I'm going to race over there. I'll hopefully get there between 5 and 5:30. Game is at 7:30. We'll have plenty of time. I'll be all set up. Better safe than sorry. The recurring nightmare that play-by-play guys have, and I know J-Riff is shaking his head right now, is that you are watching a game being played while setting up your equipment. Like, I've literally had that dream, or the dream that like I'm on a plane or a train or a bus and I'm heading for a location and I don't have the equipment. So like I'm on the plane to Wyoming, but I'm heading there without equipment, so I can't call the game. So that's one of those nightmares that you always think about when you're a broadcaster, but hopefully we'll be good for tonight. San Diego State and Michigan coming up at 4 p.m. Brian Bush, who is the radio voice of Michigan men's basketball. Jonas coming up at 3:30. Just a massive opportunity and game for San Diego State coming up tonight at 7:30 with pregame coverage beginning at 6:30 p.m. I did promise we'd touch on Fernando Tatis Jr. We briefly spoke on this. This was Friday afternoon that Michael Kay went on his radio show and said that the Yankees should pursue Fernando Tatis Jr. via trade. My initial reaction has not changed. My initial reaction was, well, first I scoffed at it, then I thought about it, and I still feel the way I felt on Friday here on Monday. And there's a couple of reasons as to why I feel that way. One of which is something that Brent actually made me aware of earlier this afternoon, which is, you know, you've got a situation where the owners of the Yankees are saying, we don't want payroll to go up. We actually want it to go down. That's Hal Steinbrenner, the son of George Steinbrenner, saying that they don't want to have a payroll that's over $300 million. He has previously said it wasn't sustainable to have a payroll over $300 million. The direct quote is, would it be ideal if we went down with the payroll? Of course. He went on to say, though, but does that mean that's going to happen? Of course not. We want to field a team that we know could win a championship. But he has said before, it shouldn't take $300 million to win a championship. You look at their salary commitments for next year, they're already pushing $300 million. That would be before the addition of a player like Fernando Tatis Jr. Now, Tatis, by all intents and purposes, it's not like he would be the highest paid player in the sport. Like, he makes a good amount of money, but when you compare it to like the Otanis and the Sotos, maybe it's reasonable compared to Otani and Soto, but you're taking on, the back half of a contract. He's not yet in it, but you're taking on the back half of a contract which is loaded with high payrolls. So you're going to be paying for him when he's in his 30s, and you're going to be paying him, $30+ million per year at one point as part of this 14-year, $340 million deal. So there's that side of it, which is, do the Yankees really, is their path to winning just continuing to add payroll? And by the way, to trade for Fernando Tatis Jr., you're giving up significant pieces. I mean, there's no world where AJ Preller would, in my opinion, I don't think he's trading Fernando Tatis Jr. But if you want to go down the path of the Padres are going to trade him, here's why. Well, it's going to require a sizable return. I mean, look at the return for a Juan Soto with 1 year left on his deal, and what the Padres were able to command. That return included Michael King, who has essentially been their ace, or was their ace, for their better part of the last 2 seasons. What would a return look like for a player that is still under control for each of the next, 9 or 10 seasons, and is only entering his age 27 season? I mean, arguably, you could be looking at a historical return. Then you have to look at it from the Padres' perspective. Yes, I understand there's debt. Yes, I understand that the ownership could change. But you're going to trade away one of the most marketable players in the history of the franchise this offseason without knowing whether or not the future ownership group would ever want that to happen. And also, like I said about Juan Soto when they traded him, do you really have a better chance to be good on the other side of trading Fernando Tatis Jr.? We've all watched his play. Has it been what it was in 2020 and 2021? Absolutely not. Do we think it's getting back there? I've argued it may not. There's no question it may not get back to the peaks of 2021. But does he help you win? That's indisputable. It's completely indisputable that Fernando Tatis Jr. can help you win, and it would be a sizable loss. Now, what do you get back? Does it make your roster more well-rounded if you were to move him? But what are you saying to your fan base if a couple of years ago you move Juan Soto, a couple of years later you move Fernando Tatis Jr.? What does it mean for your overall payroll, which no Padres fan wants to see come down? Again, there's been reporting, maybe not directly from AJ Preller, but there's been reporting from Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, saying that the Padres don't have an interest in trading Fernando Tatis Jr. His reporting suggests that it's basically shot down the idea of trading Fernando Tatis Jr. The one thing we know in sports is you never, ever, ever say never, right? It's not a no chance ever scenario, but I just find it extremely unlikely. And I also think when you're coming off a season after drawing 3.5 million fans, that a reason why you're able to do that is you're bringing back your stars. Guys like Tatis, Machado, Merrill, not necessarily Bogarts, but Machado, Merrill resonate. They play every single day, right? Pitchers, Joe Musgrove's the San Diego kid. He's beloved, obviously, in the city, but they don't play every day. You don't go to Petco Park every single day to see Joe Musgrove. He pitches every 5th or 6th day. You do go to Petco Park to see Fernando Tatis Jr. race out there to right field and to see Manny Machado, obviously, and Jackson Merrill, and so on and so forth. So I just think that you're asking a lot of a fan base to, coming off the disappointment of the way you exited this postseason, that, hey, trust us, we're going to move Fernando Tatis Jr. too, even though we've kind of publicly said, maybe not directly, maybe not directly said we won't trade him, because they don't directly say anything, but you've implied and conveyed that he's going to be a Padre. He signed a statute contract. Now, he needs to live up to that statute contract. That's on Fernando Tatis Jr. And I'm not saying that at some point he couldn't be traded. Of course he could. We might look at ourselves in 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, and things change. It's very hard to predict that far into the future, even a year's time from now, but certainly 2 or 3 years from now. That's like a lifetime of change potentially in professional sports. So I'm not saying that something couldn't change in the future, but it feels like if you were to move him now, well, I do think you'd get, an outstanding return considering what I've been talking about. I also think you're not selling at a high. I'm not saying you're selling at a low, but I don't think you're selling at a high. And the second Fernando Tatis Jr. is traded, the excitement for the franchise that lands him is going to be an all-time high. If the New York Yankees, coming out of day one of the winter meetings, landed Fernando Tatis Jr., that's cause for celebration in the city of New York, which means you probably shouldn't be trading Fernando Tatis Jr. Now, I want to see Tatis play better. I want to see Fernando Tatis Jr. look like the player that he was in 2020 and 2021. But I also don't want to see the Padres trade Toddy. And I don't think most Padres fans want to see him traded either. And sometimes, people can be hard on him. I think that the Padres hopefully organizationally maybe change the way they go about managing Fernando Tatis Jr. Maybe that's impactful on his 2026 season. I don't know if it's Craig Stammen. I think it's a little bit foolish. We kind of laughed at it last week when Jim was like, maybe Craig Stammen gets the most out of Fernando Tatis Jr. We both kind of looked at each other and we're like, is that really going to happen? Is Craig Stammen going to get the most out of Tatis? And shoot, we heard Stammen just last week basically imply that he doesn't give it his all every single day. So again, there's some things in there that need to be, ironed out, that need to be smoothed out, so to speak. But I'll take my chances with Toddy, and I'm going to bet on Fernando Tatis Jr., and I'm going to be hopeful that his 2026 is better than his 2025. And then, maybe it's a conversation for another day. There'll be a point when he's 28 or 29 or 30, and the ownership is different, and Tatis's career at that point looks different, that maybe different scenarios are thought about. Maybe the general manager of the Padres is different at that point. I just don't think now is the time. I really don't. I really do not believe now is the time to trade Fernando Tatis Jr. It's very easy for Michael Kay to say the Yankees should trade for Fernando Tatis Jr., just like it's easy for me to say the Padres should trade for Aaron Judge. That's very easy to say. But, when you actually take the deeper dive, it, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. Whether it's the Yankees payroll, of course they would have an interest in Fernando Tatis Jr., but why would the Padres, honestly, why would the Padres want to trade Fernando Tatis Jr. right now? We can discuss that more on the other side. You can text us, by the way, 70470. Start your message with the word team. Again, 70470. You can start it with the word team. We're here until 4 p.m. J-Riff has the final 2 hours of John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760. Brian Bush, radio play-by-play voice of Michigan men's basketball, will join the show coming up at 3:30. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Brian Bush is the radio voice of Michigan men's basketball. He'll join us at 3:30 as the Aztecs get ready for the Wolverines coming up tonight. This is such a crazy, crazy college hoops week. They call it Feast Week. I'm watching behind me. I'm watching Maui on a screen. I'm watching Players Era tonight. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, if you're a college hoops junkie, this is like the best week outside of March, is what I would say.
Did Chaminade win?
What's that?
Did Chaminade win?
Are they in it this year? I think they are in it. I think they're in it every other year. I'm watching Boise State and USC.
J-Riff is shaking his head yes, so they are in it this year.
What's that?
I said J-Riff is shaking his head yes, they are in it.
Yeah, I
this
think
year.
they are in it. But yeah, it's an amazing week. If you're a college basketball fan, we'll talk more about it with Brian Bush coming up at 3:30. I want to get back to Tatis in a second, but I just got an email, Brent, from the Mountain West on Mountain West championship game scenarios for football, and it remains insane with 1 week to go. The only thing that isn't insane is if the Aztecs win, they host the championship game, right? If they beat New Mexico, they host the championship game. But if there are a number of teams at 6-2, that changes because there could be like 2 teams or 3 teams or 4 teams at 6-2, and then there still could be as many as 4 teams that are. No, there's no scenario where 4 teams are 5-3. But anyway, there's still a million scenarios. Is the point? I'm looking at something with like 15 scenarios. 15 scenarios with 1 week left. This is the problem when you have a league, and this is not just the Mountain West. This is most leagues, if not all leagues in college football. You've got, 12, 14, 16, 18 teams, but they don't play each other, right? You can't.
So Jay, we're filling in here for John Schaefer, who went dark on us here for a moment. I believe he's talking about just the intensity of college basketball.
Everyone in the league. But some of these tiebreakers are now based on computer metrics. And I'm not a big computer metric guy when it comes to college football. Like, we're going to determine who is in or out of a championship game based on ESPN's FPI. Like in college basketball, that has been accepted for 35 years. I do not accept the fact that ESPN's FPI should determine who is in a championship game. Like, I can't be convinced if San Diego State beats Boise, but because those teams are tied at the end of the season, that Boise is playing New Mexico in a conference title game because Boise has better metrics according to ESPN's FPI. Like, that is completely bogus to me. But Aztecs can take it out of the computer's hands. Oh, I'm getting a doorbell ring. I have to stay on the air because I'm doing a radio show, but I'm getting a doorbell ring. It's kind of interesting.
What kind of hotel are you staying at that has a doorbell?
Well, they've already cleaned the room. Hold on, Brent. Talk for 10 seconds. Okay. Let me check.
John is going to check. Have you ever been in a hotel, J-Riff, that has a doorbell?
I've never been in a hotel. Do you? No, I'm not. This guy's getting put up. First of all, second of all, do you think he's getting another noise complaint? Remember one time he was doing a show and they said he was being too loud?
No, I don't remember that. I remember once he did a show where the connection was bad and we were about to quit. Then it turned out the plug-in was right in front of his face like the whole time.
Yep.
I remember that.
So there's a lot of user error when it comes to John.
I'm back.
Who was it?
All right, here's what happened. I don't even know where we were. What happened was, first of all, a lot of hotels in Vegas have doorbells. It's just like, it's like casinos.
I've never been there.
So,
because people pass out in their rooms and they have to wake them up. So you need a doorbell to.
Well, here's
That
what
makes
happens.
sense.
There's a button in the hotel room that says service. So if you hit the service button, they're going to come to your room and, like turn down your room or clean your room. Well, I didn't hit service, but my 6-year-old son, who's at the pool right now, hit service probably like an hour ago before the show started, or like an hour and a half ago. So blame Jones.
It's also not great. It took them 90 minutes to get to you if you needed service.
Well, it is a bit of a it's a good point. But here's the thing. They've already cleaned the room. Like, I'm not a big clean the room guy. Once I get to a hotel, I'm cool to just like be in the room. Like, right? Like, what do I need? I have a bed. I got my clothes.
Do you ever go barefoot in a hotel room?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, all the time.
Do you think it's crazy if people like not to?
I think it's a little crazy because I think they vacuum and clean the hotel.
Yeah, but you're still at the mercy of whatever it is other people have done to that
Well,
carpet.
yeah, but I mean, did you sleep on the bed?
Yeah, but they're not putting the carpet into an industry grade washing machine.
Listen, I'm not now. Do I love like picking up the phone or like no? But I don't use the phone. Who uses a hotel phone anymore in 2020, whatever year it is? So where were we? Okay, the long and the short of it is, the room's already been cleaned. If my wife wasn't with us this week, and if I wasn't with my wife and son, I would never even ask for service. I get here, I sleep in the room, whatever. Like, what do I need cleaned? I don't need my room cleaned. But Kristen likes it clean, so that's what happened.
Is Vegas still a mess from the F1 race this weekend?
Yeah, a little bit. It is. I got here yesterday, so the day after the race, and I've been here now each of the last 3 years. I want to say right before, after this race. 2 years ago, the Aztecs were in a tournament literally the weekend of the race. Then last year they were here the week after the race, and then again this year. They have it a little bit more down to a science, but yeah, like a lot of like the Ubers and the Lyfts and the taxi drivers, they like know the ways to go, because still some of the main like thoroughfares and roads, like you don't want to go down because there's all kinds of like, I don't know, workarounds and detours.
I thought it was hilarious this weekend. I saw on social media that if the cops saw you like stop by a fence and try and take a picture or something, you could get a ticket because you weren't supposed to stop and like loiter and look at the event. But people found like this one spot where there's these two escalators, and it was right on one of the main turns. So all they did was they would just go up the escalator, down the escalator, up the escalator, down the escalator for like hours, to where security had to just sit there and wait. And if anyone stopped just riding the escalator, essentially, then they would try and give them a ticket for watching the race illegally. But I just thought it was funny how they just sit there, up the escalator, down the escalator.
That's what I did 2 years ago. 2 years ago when I was here, I went to the Strip because, I mean, obviously I didn't have a ticket. Tickets were like thousands of dollars for that initial year. And at that point, they didn't have it as much under control. You basically, though, had to keep it moving 2 years ago, but I was doing the same thing. I was going like up escalators and moving to see, like, get a glimpse or a view of the track, which you were able to do 2 years ago. And I think they've tried to prevent that from happening here more recently because of that. All right, there's a million. I don't even know what's happening right now. Brian Bush is the radio voice for Michigan men's basketball. I think my computer might be frozen. That might be impacting our stream as well. But Brian Bush, radio voice of Michigan men's basketball, gets us ready for tonight, the Wolverines and the Aztecs. J-Riff coming up at 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. We've got Aztecs basketball tonight. We've got SDFC on Jammin' 95.7. Stay with us, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Mattress Firm. The Aztecs take on Michigan in Las Vegas tonight. Our pregame coverage starts at 6:30. John will have the tip after 7:30. San Diego FC has a winner stay home game tonight at Snapdragon Stadium when they take on the Minnesota United. You can hear coverage on our sister station, Jammin' 95.7, starting at 6:30. In NFL news, the Browns say they will stick with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback next week when they take on the 49ers. And in other NFL injury news, Tampa Bay says good news for Baker Mayfield. He revealed he had a low-grade AC joint sprain in his left shoulder, but no additional damage was shown. His status for next week is still up in the air. Monday Night Football tonight, the Panthers are taking on the 49ers. Tip there is going to be set for around 5:15. Need better sleep? Score huge deals on your perfect bed at Mattress Firm's Black Friday sale. Stop in today and let sleep experts find the right upgrade for your unique needs. Mattress Firm, they make sleep easy.
All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live from Las Vegas, Nevada. J-Riff, Jonathan Rifkin coming up at 4 p.m. He's got the final 2 hours of John and Jim today. Jim off for the week. I'm in Vegas for the week. Still haven't fully figured out my travel, by the way. I need to be at Albuquerque or in Albuquerque Friday for San Diego State football. So it will be a busy week. And great to catch up right now with Brian Bush, who calls Michigan men's basketball on the radio, as San Diego State and Michigan will square off tonight for just the second time ever. Coming up tonight at 7:30 Pacific, pregame coverage beginning at 6:30 on San Diego Sports 760. Brian, you wouldn't believe I'm doing a show from my hotel room right now, and I do a video stream as well. And for whatever reason, my blinds are closing, so it got like pitch black in here. Looking forward to tonight. I was there for the first meeting. I remember you were as well. San Diego State and Michigan at Chrysler back in 2021. What are your expectations in general for this week? Obviously, crazy expectations for Michigan, off to the perfect start, top 10 in the AP poll. What are your expectations for what's to come, not just tonight, but this week for the Wolverines?
Yeah, John, first off, thanks for having me. Looking forward to seeing you tonight over at the arena. You know, it's so interesting because I think Dusty May and his staff have treated the early stages of this season as kind of trial by fire, trying to figure out how to best utilize some incredibly talented pieces. Michigan had one of the best incoming portal classes in the country, led by Axel Lendeborg, a guy who, you know, if he were a selfish player, could probably put up 30 a night. But he is very willing to defer, to pass, to get others involved, get others going. He likes to pass it around early. A couple of big guys from the Big Ten, and Adai Mara and Morez Johnson Jr., who do different things, but can have a huge impact on the game. I know San Diego State fans know Elliot Cadeau well for what he did in the tournament last year. He struggled the last couple of games, but they have high expectations for him. It's really interesting that they are still so fluid with the rotations. So yeah, you hope that, you know, the team you call games for wins and goes far, and they can make more NIL by getting into the Final Four and all that of this unique event. But ultimately, I think this staff, this team is in fact-finding mode, and they hope that they can utilize those facts come postseason time, because they know they're talented, but they're not quite sure how to implement that talent fully yet.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see it on display. Like you said, I mean, I think one of the more talented rosters in the country, obviously with a lot of resources to put it together. One of the storylines of the offseason, I don't know how closely you followed it, but in the portal was Magoon Guath, who returns to San Diego State. He's publicly spoken on this. We had the beat writer for the Aztecs on earlier from the Union Tribune, who said he spoke to Magoon, and Magoon said he spoke to Michigan multiple times while he was in the portal. I think he spoke with two teams, Michigan and Kentucky, before electing to come back to San Diego State. Do you find that to be interesting or intriguing or a storyline at all heading into this game?
I think Guath is the storyline for San Diego State. In terms of his, conversations with Michigan, I don't know how much, because frankly, I think if you're a big man who has some athleticism, you should consider Michigan, considering what Dusty May did with Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, but in particular Danny, as a 7-footer who ran a 4-5 ball screen, who in a lot of big spots was the instigator, was in essence the de facto point guard of the offense. So with Guath's unique skill set, As a fan of college basketball, and it's easy to say now that I've seen who Michigan has gotten, and they've gotten some good players to fill that interior presence. I'm glad Guas stayed. I think it's good for college basketball. It is, for every player that, has 4 different stops and 4 different seasons, which, Michigan has some guys with that type of MO. I know we're going to see it with Auburn tomorrow, all of that. Like, that's part of it, of course. But, with the Brian Dutcher connection to Michigan and with what he did last year, and especially when it was kind of an unfortunate finish to the season, banged up, not able to really finish the season strong, came back, gritted out that NCAA tournament game. So, yeah, it's not surprising. But, Guas, San Diego State's one heck of a program too. And that's something that, Dusty May and company experienced at the worst possible way in the Final Four. But also just across the country. I mean, how many programs are more consistent and more understanding of what they do than San Diego State? And shoot, I think Guas might be the best embodiment of that and the best talent on this team.
Brian Bush with us right now, calls games for the Michigan Wolverines. Aztecs and Wolverines coming up tonight at 7:30 Pacific with pregame coverage beginning at 6:30. I mean, there's just storylines everywhere. I think we talked about this in 2021. There are more storylines now. 2021, it was Juwan Howard, against his former coach in Brian Dutcher. Dusty May, of course, was the head coach at FAU when San Diego State had the most iconic moment in the history of its athletics department, when Lamont Butler hit that shot, obviously, over Nick Boyd, who, by the way, last year was at San Diego State, believe it or not. So we're kind of in that world. Has Dusty at all spoken publicly about facing the Aztecs, what challenges will present themselves here tonight, and then more specifically about going up against Brian Dutcher for a second time since the 2023 Final Four?
Yeah, and not so much the actual Final Four game, because it's such a different setting, dynamic, all of that. And I'm sure there's some scars there, of course. But listen, Dusty has talked about since the start what, this defensive prowess from San Diego State. I think it's, maybe the unit that will test Michigan the most during this event and what it does. I'll tell you one more funny story, though, about the unique connections. Every other year, Michigan basketball alums get together in Ann Arbor, have a golf outing, a dinner, raise money for ALS, obviously with Coach Fisher having such a close tie to that. Coach Fisher has come many times. And Brian Dutcher was there in the summer of 23, and everybody's thought, hey, congratulations, that's great. What a win over FAU. And it's just so funny how a year later, everyone was so fired up because the guy who was on the other side of that just took the Michigan job and did what he did in year 1 at Michigan. So, yeah, there's so many intertwining aspects, right? San Diego State's eliminated. They've eliminated Amari Burnett in the NCAA tournament. They eliminated the Axel Lendeborg in the tournament at UAB a couple of years ago. It's a really cool, juicy storyline type of a game, and one that I think when you get down to the brass tacks on the floor, what can Michigan's offense do against San Diego State's defense? One that certainly looked good in the first couple games, but showed some issues against Troy that I think Michigan will try to exploit.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. So San Diego State, I don't know if they had the same preseason expectations as the Michigan Wolverines, who have been inside the AP top 10. And the Aztecs, even when they started 2-0, weren't inside the AP top 25. But the expectations in San Diego were as high as ever. And the Aztecs have had some terrific teams with Kawhi Leonard and 30-2 in 2020 and a national championship game appearance as recently as 2023. So, from an expectation perspective, obviously San Diego State has high expectations. What was your reaction in seeing that, 108-107 kind of un-Aztec-like game and score the other night against Troy?
My question was, did the clock stop working like midway through the second half or something? No, it took me by surprise. There's no doubt, because, something Dusty said to me earlier today was, when you can be that consistently good at something for that long in this day of college basketball, that shows you just how ingrained the culture is. And there are going to be ebbs and flows, and there are going to be good nights and bad nights and all of that. But yeah, it was shocking. But then, hey, credit to Troy. They should have beaten USC a few days later. So, that seems to be a better team than you would expect. You never know how it'll happen. I mean, shoot, Michigan had a week where they played 2 power conference teams in Wake Forest and TCU, but Michigan was pretty heavily favored in both those games. and needed to really grind out an overtime game where they needed to stop to force OT against Wake. And then they were down a good chunk of the second half before not surging to a victory, grinding it out. They had to slog their way past TCU and Fort Worth. So it's what makes these type of events fun. It's why it's good for college basketball to have some of these showcase events. And I have to imagine that there have been some tougher practices there in San Diego over the last few days after that loss from Troy.
Brian Bush with us right now. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Aztecs and Wolverines coming up tonight at 7:30. Just the sheer size of Michigan. How much of a story will that be even once you get into Big Ten play? I feel like there's more teams in the Big Ten that will look like Michigan than you'll probably see in the non-conference. Now, San Diego State, by their standard, is a very big team, but certainly not as big as Michigan. It's been a massive factor, obviously, in those first 4 games that, the Wolverines are shooting 80+% by the rim, plus 13 or 14 in rebounding. Will that remain a similar trend throughout the course of even Big Ten play, or will that kind of equalize a little bit?
Yeah, I think it has to, especially if Michigan is going to struggle from 3 like they have the last 3 games. Came out rolling in their opener against Oakland, where they scored 69 first half points and tied a program record with 19 threes. They've struggled. They've shot 21% from 3 in the 3 games since. Now, whether Michigan's shooting 20% or 37% from 3, they still want to do this. One aspect that I'm curious how long it will be this season is Adai Mara shooting 68% from the floor on 8 attempts a game. Moraz Johnson Jr. shooting 63% from the floor on 9 attempts a game. And Yaxel Lendeborg shooting 60% from the floor on 9 attempts a game. That is super balanced. Now, there is some peaks and valleys for each of their individual games if you go through the log. But I think they want to get all those guys involved. I think they're willing to absorb a rough game from one if the other 2, whoever it might be, would be thriving. I think you'll see more playmaking, more Yaxel Lendeborg points usage as the season goes along. But I think where you might have the Mara and Johnsons of the world being more, impactful from an attempt standpoint is through offensive rebounding. That I think Michigan wants to be a team that is willing to miss some shots if they're good shots, layups, dunks, and threes, because they feel like they're going to have the size advantage. And from the Big Ten standpoint, I don't know if the bigs are quite as deep as they were 4 or 5 years ago when Hunter Dickinson was going up against some really tough big men in this league. Now, there's still some really good ones, but I don't know if it's quite that bottleneck on the interior as it was a few years back that we see here. And, I think Michigan was pretty intentional about wanting to be the best bullies on the block they could be within the league.
Serious test, obviously, tonight coming up for San Diego State. But, man, so many intriguing storylines. Like you said, Lendeborg, he was at UAB, remember the game. And Namari Burnett in Louisville in that Sweet 16. And last year, Elliot Cadeau in the first 4 against San Diego State. And, again, another game coming up tonight, a big one. Michigan and San Diego State at 7:30. Brian, appreciate you taking time for us in San Diego. I will see you later on this afternoon and evening. And have a great call tonight, all right?
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Sean.
All right, great stuff. Brian Bush, again, radio voice of the Michigan Wolverines. Will come back, react to that, getting you ready for SDFC tonight, SDSU tonight, and more. J-Riff takes over at 4 p.m. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. John and Jim from Vegas. J-Riff coming up from San Diego from 4 to 6. Aztecs coming up tonight at 7:30 against the Michigan Wolverines. SDFC coming up tonight from Snapdragon Stadium against Minnesota. And, of course, you can hear that on Jammin' 95.7. It's amazing what can happen in 2 hours. We've had quite the 2-hour show, haven't we, here from Las Vegas as the sun is beginning to set over Sin City. I'll make my way over for Michelob Ultra Arena. We were here last year, of course, for the first ever Players Era Festival. A very good week for the Aztecs a year ago. It was basically the way they punched their ticket for the NCAA tournament. And they added money to their, NIL efforts as well. All the teams in this event, it was so unique a year ago. I think it's still unique for a lot of people that, follow college sports. Each team in this event receiving $1 million for student athletes just by playing, which is an unbelievable amount of money. You're talking about, 12 or so scholarship players will, take $1 million and divide it by 12. That alone could be life-changing money. That's in the, $80,000+ range potentially. But then the more you win, the more you can earn. And last year, San Diego State in this field finished in 3rd place, beat the University of Houston, earned more money for NIL and rev share. So it was a big win. And then beyond that, if not for playing in Las Vegas, San Diego State would not have been in the NCAA tournament last year. I know it was short-lived. I know they were beaten soundly by North Carolina in the first 4 in Dayton, Ohio, but everyone wants to make the NCAA tournament. And that includes the Aztecs, even with last year's result. But there was no NCAA tournament without playing in this event. There just wasn't, because they had 2 marquee wins, headlined by one of the wins of the year for anyone in the non-conference. That was San Diego State over Houston. Of course, Houston would later play for a national championship. And I think after Houston lost to San Diego State last year, they lost just one additional time before losing in the national title game. So they were one of the best teams in the country. And the Aztecs were able to hang their hat on that win basically all the way to March. And you looked at their resume, and the Aztecs were the second to last team in the field last year. And I don't think they're anywhere near the field without beating Houston. And I think even, with the Creighton win, they're probably on the outside looking in. So last year was Houston and Creighton. This time around, it will not be easy. I remember saying last year it wasn't going to be easy. It's not like those matchups were, easy a year ago against Creighton and Houston, but the Aztecs managed and found ways. They've had so much success in the city over the years, haven't they? Like, if you have followed Aztec hoops through its rise under Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher, you have witnessed some incredible nights and games in Las Vegas, Nevada, whether it's the Mountain West tournament, whether it's as a road team against UNLV, whether it's last year in the Players Era Festival. They've had other tournaments here as well they've been successful in. A couple of years ago, I want to say they beat St. Mary's in Washington here to win a championship, maybe the Continental Tires event from a couple of years ago. So this has been a great place over the years for San Diego State. A true home away from home is what it's been, but that's not a guarantee of future success, obviously. And it's Michigan tonight, and then it's Oregon tomorrow night at 8 p.m., and then it's a third game either Wednesday or Thursday against another really good opponent, potentially for the Aztecs. There's the doorbell again. There's the doorbell again, gentlemen. What is the deal with the doorbell?
Jones ordered some fries. He wanted him to be there when he got back from the pool.
Does the privacy light must keep coming on? They're going to come in this room in about 30 seconds.
Well, it's not like you're doing anything that, like, they're going to walk in and be like, oh, my God.
Unless you are and we don't know.
It's Mom and Jones. Okay. What's up, bud? I am on the radio here, and I don't even think I can actually have a 6-year-old on my YouTube stream because I didn't click the button. But there is my son, Jones. Hi. This is off the rails. And my wife, Kristen. To be 6 in Las Vegas, Nevada. All right, good thing is J-Riff is coming up in a handful of minutes. And then I'm going to make my way for the arena for San Diego State, Michigan. Are you going to come to the game tonight, Jonesy? What do you think? Or are you going to the Rainforest Cafe? Live radio, folks. Live radio, folks. All right, Jonesy, give me 1 minute. I will be over to you in about 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Say bye-bye, radio listeners. Bye-bye, radio listeners. We will see you maybe tomorrow, right? Yeah. Okay. You want to call the game tonight? You ready? Or you want to look at these sheets? Look at these sheets with Mama. Just don't write on them. I was wondering who rang the doorbell Because earlier we had the privacy doorbell. Somebody, while I was on the radio, they came in earlier. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Bye, buddy. How about that, Brian? Is that a first?
No, he was on one other time, I think.
Was he on another time? Okay, he's been on one other time. I don't even know where I was going with my soliloquy. Just to say, it's a big opportunity tonight for San Diego State. We spent a lot of time on it over the last couple of hours because I'm going to be on the call. Again, if you want to listen to SDFC tonight, looking forward to that as well. That is coming up at 7 p.m. at Snapdragon Stadium. That atmosphere is going to be ridiculous. I wish I could be there tonight because that's going to be a ridiculous atmosphere coming up for the Western Conference semifinals. And with a win tonight, SDFC will be in the Western Conference Finals in year one in program history. An amazing accomplishment. That's on the line tonight at Snapdragon Stadium. And then, of course, we're back here tomorrow at 2 p.m. as well. John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760. So we've got just a ton going on the next couple of days. I don't even know if J-Riff is fully aware of this, but he recognizes it because he's had to do it at one point or another throughout the course of his career. I'm going from Vegas to either San Diego briefly to go back on the road for Albuquerque for San Diego State football, or I'm somehow finding my way from Las Vegas and going to make it to Albuquerque. I don't know how.
There are definitely direct flights, John.
Well, it's an issue, though, because I don't want to take a direct flight to Albuquerque Friday morning because I'm calling a game at Friday.
Oh, game day, huh?
And if I'm calling a game Thursday afternoon, which is possible, then I don't know if I can get out Thursday. If I got out Thursday night, it would be with the stop, which isn't the worst thing in the world, and I might have to do it. I haven't even looked at it because I don't know what time the Aztecs' third game is. Oh, Jonesy, stay over there right now since Chris. Okay, sounds good.
Let Jones book your flight. Let him decide.
Let Jones fly you.
Yeah. It's definitely not fine what's going on right now in the room. So, all right, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take a timeout, and on the other side, Jonathan Rifkin's got a whole lot more. Will Brinson is on the show coming up this afternoon. Is that at 4:30, guys, like it normally is?
4:30.
All right, Will Brinson, senior NFL writer, CBS Sports, a huge weekend, obviously, that's going to wrap up tonight with Monday Night Football, including that Chiefs win over the Colts in overtime, what that means for the Chiefs and the AFC. So Will Brinson on the show at 4:30. Jonathan Rifkin hanging out with you for 2 hours from our San Diego Sports 760 studios from 4 to 6 p.m. We'll catch up later tonight. Aztecs and Wolverines, and then, of course, SDFC coming up tonight as well on Jammin' 95.7. Keep it here. Hour 3 of John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. That's next.